ramped everything right back up last week.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah.
It is absolutely crazy. And Kat's in Denver.
Yeah.
Ooh, I love Denver. I've gotten to go twice.
It's pretty great. Yeah. I love Denver.
You did. She just moved there not too long.
Yeah.
How long ago, Kat?
Like, well, almost a year ago.
Nice.
God.
Crazy.
All right, so we are live on YouTube right now, just so you know. So we are an open channel officially as of right now.
Okay, great.
I do want to say welcome to everybody who's joining us. I'm keeping my eye on the chat, and we'll be kicking off here momentarily. I will give you guys a countdown when we go live. It'll be within the next 45 seconds or about there. And we will get all set up to go. Here. Jerome is from Clinton Township, Michigan. Hi, Jerome. I'm in Ohio, so I'm not that far from you. I'm like right across the border. There's Floor. Floor's from Burlington, Ontario. Jill's joining us from Tucson. Hi, Haley. Thanks for joining us.
Hi. Hi, everybody.
Hi, everyone.
All right, I'm gonna hit record and then we will get going here. All right, so happy Thursday, everybody. Welcome. My name is Meg. I'm part of the team here at PowerToFly, and I am super excited to dig in with all of you and speak to Catherine and Hillary today. Before we get started, in case you've joined even a single chat and learn or office hours or any kind of virtual event with us before, the next minute and a half is going to be a lot of repetition, so my apologies. First things first, today is all about you. Like all of our virtual events, it's about our community. So to that end, you are more than welcome, greatly encouraged, to turn on your cameras, share your lovely smiling face with the rest of us. If you have a grumpy cat face, that's fine too. I have a wicked case of RBF, I've been told, so please feel free to share if you'd like. I very much treasure seeing new faces now more than ever, but don't feel like you have to. Don't feel like you have to be Insta ready to come on camera and say hi to us. Just know that we're all here and we would love to see you if you'd love to see us. If you want to participate, you are more than welcome to come off mute and ask questions, make comments, whatever. The one thing that we do try and push is that we don't talk over other people if we can at all. I know that lag time is a real thing, so do your best. And the only exception to that is me. I am paid to fill the space. So if I'm talking and you want to talk, please feel free to interrupt me. I am more than happy to be quiet and cede the floor to somebody who doesn't get to do this every day. So that being said, if you maybe don't have audio capabilities or just a wicked case of laryngitis and prefer not to talk, you are more than welcome to participate still. You can put any kind of questions or comments you have into the Zoom chat. I will be monitoring that while we are chatting today and going over some of your pre-submitted questions. But don't feel like you can't participate if you don't have audio. So just feel free to do that. And if you have any question that you'd like raised, but you want it raised anonymously for any reason whatsoever, instead of sending it to everyone in the drop-down menu on your Zoom group chat pop-up, you will select my name from the drop-down and just send it to me. I will make sure your question is raised and I will keep you anonymous. Today is being recorded, so anybody that registers for today, whether you spend 5 minutes with us or the full hour, everybody that registers is going to get an email with a rewatch link for today's recording. We are also live on YouTube currently. So if you want to check out the recording on our YouTube channel, you can do that, momentarily once we get done here today. But you can also check out the recording when it's live on our website. You can send that link to, pretty much anybody you want. It's free to watch. It's always going to be there. And we definitely encourage you to spread the love around. To that end, if you are joining us and also live tweeting or on social media, please feel free to tag us. We are at PowerToFly on every social media channel except TikTok. So please feel free to do that if you'd like. And yeah, without any more ado, I would love to introduce you to today's speakers. So first up, we have Hillary Black. Hillary is, by her own admission, a failed copywriter and a huge Bukowski fan. Ditto. 20 years later, she is the joint CEO of K & Black, a boutique recruitment and coaching firm in NYC. She spent over 20 years in advertising and witnessed and facilitated many career transitions for herself as well as others. She's passionate about making meaningful connections with an empathetic human approach. She graduated with a BA in psychology and later in life received her master's degree in social work. So welcome, Hillary.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. I'm so glad to be here. I just want to share a little bit about our company for a second, just to give you an idea and to let you all know that career transitions are so obvious and able to, you can make them happen at any time. It is because of my failure in copywriting that I was able to become a successful recruiter. It is because that, and I became a recruiter, my former boss, I always share, let me go in 2001 when we had a similar but not similar recession. She rehired me. I became her partner. And in doing so, I had 2 children. I found that I was getting a little bit stale in my desire. My purpose was losing a little traction. And I decided to go back and take a single class to get my master's to see if I liked it. I ended up falling in love with it. I got my master's in social work at 37. I had 2 children by 41. But in that, between that time, I said, what do I want to do? And I was like, well, you can't do anything. You're doing what you're doing. You're going to be 40. And that's not true at all. I took all of the skill sets I had and I took what I was doing. And thankfully to Catherine joining our team, and she'll explain her story, we started another division called PERC. PERC is our outplacement, our coaching, internal and external program for individuals and organizations. And doing this right now with you today is seriously what gives me joy. It is a thing that I am most passionate about. And I could not do any of it if it was not for Catherine, my partner in crime with PERC, along with my partner, Leslie Kay. But right now she's taking care of 3 children by herself. So I'm going to let you introduce Kat.
All right, thank you for that. So Kat, or Catherine, which do you prefer?
Cat's cool. Yeah.
Kat? All right. So Kat is a recruiter and a coach with a background in advertising, design, and branding. She started her career as a graphic designer, transitioned into recruiting in 2015. Over the years, she's also had a number of side hustles, including owning an e-commerce brand and working as a sound healer and Reiki practitioner. She loves bringing all parts of her to any job that she does. She graduated with a double BA from Fordham University in visual arts, graphic design, and English, and later in her career became a certified coactive coach, a CPCC. So thank you for joining us today, Kat.
Thank you for having us. Just echoing what Hill said, this is really what we love to do. And it's cool to be here because I feel like, I call myself a career chameleon. I've just made a lot of transitions throughout my career, and they've all been so interesting and rewarding and taught me something at that time. And I feel like my experience, I hope, is an example to people that you can change and shift your career at any point in time, and it's okay to change it, and it's going to evolve constantly. So yeah. So thank you so much for hosting us, and we're excited to dig in.
Yeah, I can't wait. I'm a big believer in the idea of a changeable career. I mean, I feel like we are long past the days of working someplace for 40 years, getting your gold watch and retiring. It's just not a thing that people do anymore. And a lot of what you guys have in your backgrounds honestly echoes a lot of what I have in my background, which is a whole smattering of like, how on earth did you end up there? So I'm really excited to dig in today. So we're gonna get started on the questions here. I do have 2 pages of questions, so in case any of our type A joiners want to take a screenshot so that you know kind of some of the questions that are coming up next.
That would be welcome
to. Hey, there are people that honestly treasure this because they like to know what's coming next, so please feel free. Here's this one page. I'm going to change it in a couple seconds, so take your screenshots if you got them. All right, one more. Here's our next page. Oh, the other thing I will tell you guys, I'm going to keep continually muting myself if I am not speaking. So if you are not actively talking, either asking a question, commenting, whatever, please make sure you're on mute. That doesn't mean you can't come off mute to ask questions. Please feel free to do that. But it helps cut down on audio contamination and make sure that the recording is good, as well as everybody else that's listening in is able to catch every word. Let's see here. All right, so we're going to start with our first question today, and I'm going to assume that between the 2 of you, you know which question you'd like to address. So I'm just going to address the question to both.
Okay.
So did things just kind of evolve to the next logical steps in your careers, or did you make a conscious choice to change direction? And if so, what were your biggest obstacles in doing so?
Yeah. So for me, I guess it was kind of a combination of both, honestly. I have done throughout my career what I call following the thread or like following the breadcrumbs. Um, as things just kind of started to evolve, I started as a designer at a small agency. And over the years, like I was their first designer, and we were so busy that I had to hire like 5, 6 other designers, creatives, with me. And I realized as I was doing this that it's like, oh, I really like sitting in interviews with people and I really like building teams. And I think I really like people. And so, as much as I love design, I kind of took that information and realized, you know what? I think what's fulfilling me right now is working with people. And so, yeah, I talked to different people, did research, thought about, okay, like maybe recruiting is an option, and found Hillary and Leslie, and the rest is history. And I think the biggest obstacle to that was this inner voice that was saying, oh, like you are already have a good career. Who are you to change your career right now? Like you're already a great designer. Like how can you do that? Or, who gave you permission? And so eventually it was just overcoming that fear and realizing, no, I'm going to follow like the evidence in front of me that's showing me this is the right path, and just going for it and being curious about it. I don't know, Hill, if you want to add anything about your path, because yours is a little different.
I mean, I definitely think I shared quite a bit already when I was saying where I came from and all of this. They didn't evolve necessarily in a logical step. It came out of circumstance or emotion and feelings. It came out of something inside that just wasn't clicking, or I felt like I had reached a point where I just wasn't feeling the same way. I didn't want, maybe the people around me weren't working differently. Clients were different. Talent was maybe different. The hiring process was different as far as recruiting goes. I didn't feel fulfilled anymore. And I think things change too as you get older, also, whether you're in your 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, whatever age you're in, every step you could feel differently. And for that, I just, to be quite frank, I'm extremely honest and blunt. I will share all of my experiences with you. I've been in therapy since I'm young. I've been through a lot of life changes. I am a cancer survivor. Prior to the cancer, wasn't even the thing that really changed my perspective. What changed my perspective most was having it just was like almost not an expiration date, but a feeling that just was like, okay, something's got to give here. This is just feeling too obvious every day. I want something different. And so because of that, I had to just take mental note of what were the things I liked to do and what were the things that I didn't like to do, and what can I do with the skills that I had and how can I use them. The obstacles were, financial obstacles come into play for some of us, or, how am I going to make a living doing that, or things like that. So it's really about what do I like to do and how can I utilize that, and taking stock of how you can make it happen, and the process.
Absolutely. Thank you both for sharing that. I think it can be helpful, even though we all logically know that like most people don't have a grand or overarching plan for their lives. I still think it's very helpful to hear from people that have that kind of perceived success, or at least seem to be doing something that makes them happy, and learning more about how that came together, not because of some grand overarching plan, but because you encounter obstacles or you encounter different situations in your life. You have to deal with them, pivot, and move on. I think it's very important to keep reiterating that to people, because from the surface, it looks easy, right? It looks seamless. It looks like it was all planned, but nobody knows that. Nobody really understands that other people don't have that going on. So thank you for sharing that.
You're welcome.
So for this next question, this person had asked, how did you know it was time for a workplace or career change rather than ramping up your current position?
Sure. So, yeah, I think it's similar to what both Hillary and I mentioned before. I just realized like it was getting harder and harder for me to sit down and design. Like, I was just not excited about it, but I felt like I had to be excited about it because it was technically my job title. Um, and I just kept being drawn to, ooh, like what's going on with this designer? Like, how can we, do better reviews? How can we support our talent? Oh, we need freelancers on this project. So let me, work on finding some new talent. So I just started to, yeah, feel where the energy was going and realize like, I just wasn't psyched to design every day anymore. I was more excited about something else. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, I think to Kat's point, it's a feeling. It's often a feeling. And if you don't have the people behind you supporting you and you feel that there's a consistent theme that's happening, don't, unfortunately, I think generations have changed where there's this, I call it a swipe generation, right? I didn't grow up in a swipe generation. I grew up using a brother like word processor. So I had the Dewey Decimal System in the library. That being said, just take a break, take a breath, and really take stock. Like I said before, is the feeling consistent? Is it something that's constant? Does that nagging feeling keep happening? And if people are not helping you ramp up your current position and you feel like you want to and it's not happening, then you know that it's time. If you don't have any desire, you'll know. You have to trust your gut to a certain point. Just make sure your head and your heart are in the same place, because one can sometimes override the other.
Thank you for that call out. I think it's important to note, what doesn't feel right, but is it a fleeting kind of thing, or is it just, I'm kind of prickly today, nothing's going to feel right.
Right.
It's something that takes introspection, takes a little bit of time to know, but it's time well spent, honestly. Okay, so for this next question, this person had said, at what point do you just give up on looking for a job in the industry and leave for something else? And I feel like we get this a lot. We get it from new grads, and we also get it from people that have been in a specific industry for a while and maybe just want to change companies within that industry. But what do you recommend here?
Well, first of all, I don't like this concept of giving up. I mean, here I am, a mother of two children. Whether you have children or not, it's just this thing that you need to just stop saying. Like, think about riding a bike. Like, if you give up, if you let, like, my son fell today, right, and his instinct was to not get back up on the bike, right? He's 6 years old. It's like you cannot give up. You have to ask yourself, did I do everything? Did I work it, right? If you don't work it and you don't put in the effort, and if you feel you've done everything, and when I say everything, I mean you've really you've reached out to your network, even if it's about contacting a coach or somebody that's a coach that maybe you don't have to pay because you don't have that money. Whatever it may be, you need to do the work to know that you've given it your all and that you've done everything. And if it's something you really, really want and you work it, I do believe that it will come. That's just my feeling. If you feel that if it becomes a financial thing, right? Because I hate when people say to people, listen, I just hate the bullshit. Excuse me to say that out loud, but like, I hate when people make me feel like, listen, you could have that, you could get that job. Well, it's not that easy. So let's be real that money is a thing. Some people have to take care of furry babies, parents, children, whatever it may be. If you cannot afford it, right, and you keep looking for a job in the industry that you want, you shouldn't necessarily stop the process while you're doing something else. Can you consult doing something else to like balance that income issue? But I believe that you have to really be a part of your process. And I don't think you have to give up if it's something you really, really want. If it's not a job that you want in the industry, then look at the skills that you're looking at. Forget that specific industry, maybe look at the category that you're interested in. Are you interested in purpose-driven work? Are you interested in automobile? Are you interested in insurance because it helps people? Like whatever it may be, think about that. And then think about the job that you want, because the industry may be advertising and design, but maybe there's a client out there, and with all the new in-house divisions, you could work in a specific industry within a specific client. It doesn't necessarily need to just be advertising and design or financial. You could find that little space with what you do in all these different avenues now. I know that was a little bit complicated, or convoluted, but I hope it made sense. Kat?
No, I think just echoing what you said, Hill. And, I want to also debunk this myth that like, well, if I'm not looking in my industry, then I have to look somewhere else. And like, I couldn't do both at the same time. Like it doesn't have to be one or like all or nothing. You can still, if being in a certain industry is your absolute dream and your passion, and just right now it's like not working out for some reason, you can hold both of those at the same time. And it doesn't mean that you have to totally drop one or the other. So
I think that's a really good thing to flag too, is that, like you said, look at if you can't break into a specific industry and that's what you think you want, why are you looking to get into the industry? Is it a situation where maybe it's a bit restrictive and they're not going to want you if you don't have X, Y, and Z? Or is it a situation where what you really want is, the good feeling of working for a company that does good, or you really want the design aspect from this industry that you could find in another position or in another role?
Mm-hmm.
I think one of the things that we hear a lot of from our various speakers that like is a really important point to call out for job seekers is that if you treat it more like, I heard somebody at some point say something about life is more manageable if you treat it like a scavenger hunt rather than a surprise party. So if you kind of come at it from this idea that you're either working these different jobs to gather the different skills that you'll need to really move into your dream job someday, that's one way to look at it. The other way is to look at it like, you don't have to just take, like, it's not like you can only take, like, move so many jobs in your lifetime, take the job, see if it works out. If it doesn't, just don't burn bridges on your way there, try and be moving and making moves towards what you want. Don't expect that it's all going to be like an all or nothing. Either you get there or you don't. Like it's all this journey that you have to keep working towards.
And it's also about figuring out, again, it's really important to note here, if the industry, let's say, is if the industry is specific to design, let's say, or the industry is health and wellness, what is it that you want in those industries? And again, flip the script a little. Can I get the job in a different industry, but that does a similar purpose to it? So again, if it's health and wellness, and you wanted to work within a specific, for a specific company, just stretch it a bit, right? Because what you'll get out of that, like to your point, Meg, what you might get out of another job may bring you a greater skill set for a specific one you might get later on.
Exactly. All right. So leading into this next question deals with the skill set, right, that you might develop here. The question is, what is the best way to communicate your transferable skills? Now, you guys have a couple of other slides in here, so call out when you want me to shift to the next ones. But this is a question that we get a lot. So in your opinion, what is the best way to communicate your transferable skills?
Sure. So I learned this trick with resumes and job descriptions, and I find it can be really helpful in like breaking down, like Hill was talking about, the actual skills or like tasks that you're doing in a particular role and you're using. So what I would do is like look at some job descriptions and actually read the copy. You can put it in a Google Doc or put it in, print it out, highlight it. If you're feeling analog, I'm like craving analog stuff lately. So I'm like, yes, highlight. So, and then go through that job description, even if it's like forget about the title, just forget the title for a second. Look at the job description and go through and ask yourself, oh, is this something that I have done before? Is this actually a skill that I have? Does this sound like me? Are there like descriptive words in here that connect with who I am and what I offer. And I think that will kind of take you out of the perspective of just searching for a particular title, because titles mean something and they also don't. You know, in different industries, one title can mean one thing and in another one it means nothing. So, you know, really looking at the contents of that job description can help give you some ideas, and I think also some like confidence to realize, oh, I do have these skills. They're right there in this job that I want. I just thought, oh, well, I don't have this one, so I can't do it. But if you really go through, you'll see like, probably, oh, this whole page is highlighted and I can pull that and now use it as a way to communicate what I offer. So yeah, if you go to the next slide, I just put an example in here of like, yeah, like what that actually might look like. So I don't know, Hill, if you have anything you want to add to that.
No, I think what you said is exactly on target. There's nothing really to add to that, except I think the most important thing is when you're doing your research, by looking at other jobs of things that you really want to do and seeing, or even looking at people on LinkedIn, seeing what they might list for what they do, if it's something similar to what you want, and searching those people out, you get to see, I already do that and I do that. And like to Kat's point, like that thing about the confidence building, this, you know, the scavenger hunt thing's a great thing. I mean, I do think it will help you really feel focused. And I'm telling you, when you're part of your process and you do this and you figure out, okay, wow, what skills do I have? What will translate over to this? It's like when I went to social work school, they call it an evidence for and an evidence against list. So let's say I have a bad feeling, I'm never going to get a job. It's never going to happen in this industry. 9 times out of 10, the cognitive behavioral therapists, what they'll do is they'll make you realize, you'll see that your evidence to support that you have all these skills, that list is going to be super long. And the against list is like the imposter in your head saying you're not good enough, or they're going to find out that I stink at what I do. That's all you. You know, if you're on these chats, the chances are you want better for yourself, that you care about your profession, that you want to do a good job. So the odds are none of you are any of those people that are going to have a strong evidence to support your bad feeling. It's just a lot of it is in the tape we play that's really stinky in our head that makes us feel like crap. Your transferable skills, you could just do the research online, like Kat said, and it will also help you feel really good about yourself. So this example, Kat, can you just talk about it for just like a minute, just to explain it a little bit? Take your mute.
On mute.
Yeah.
Sure. Like here, you know, this person might highlight, you know, some of the things like they've done product development or they've worked in corporate learning. And maybe some of the soft skills stuff is someone who thrives at the intersection of, you know, education, storytelling, design, technology. You know, maybe they are, let me see, I'm looking for another soft skill in here. It might not be. But yeah, like there might be certain descriptive words in there that resonate with you, or you're like, oh, that's me. Like I'm really passionate about education and I love design. And so it just gives you some ideas of what your transferable skills might be versus like feeling like you have to start from scratch.
Yeah.
Takes the anxiety out.
You got to look at what you've done for the last, like, I just am changing my LinkedIn slowly but surely because I'm changing what I want to do more. And I had to look what I was doing the last 20 years. And I'm like, oh my God, I was coaching for 20 years without getting paid for it. Like I literally was coaching and I couldn't do it anymore because I was like, I was spending hours a day with people as opposed to the 20 minutes or 30 minutes. And they'd be like, oh my God, you're so nice. You called me back. No recruiters call me back. And I'm like, okay, yeah, I could definitely call you back and I can give you some time, but I can no longer give an hour and a half to one person. And I realized I was coaching for 20 years. So I think that's just, you know, I think we gave you a lot for that one.
No, and I think that's very helpful because we have these people that ask all the time about your transferable skills, but people discredit and discount their soft skills. Oh my gosh, so across the board. Like, and I do it too. Don't get me wrong. I do this constantly to myself, even with stuff I know logically I'm good at. I'm like, yeah, but I could be better, or I could be different, or I could change how I do whatever. Look at it like you're looking at a friend's resume, honestly, because there's crap I say to myself that I would never say to a friend ever, because it's horribly mean and it's wildly untrue. Yeah. But you'll say it to yourself because you're your own worst critic. So pretend it's a friend, pretend that you're trying to like talk somebody else up for this job. It becomes a lot easier to point out like, oh yeah, I'm actually really good at conversation, and like the fact that I just don't ever shut up makes me pretty good at like, you know, working with these sessions with people for interviewing and whatever. But like, that's, again, it's one of those things where like, I would be mean to myself, but if it's a friend, I'm going to be a lot nicer, and I'm going to be a lot more open-minded and creative about looking at how these things work. You're not trying to con somebody into saying like, well, I speak English, so I can interview people. Yeah. No, you're showing and you're drawing those comparisons and those connecting those dots for the recruiter so that they have a much easier time seeing that you are suitable for this role.
Mm-hmm. Yep, 100%.
We do have a question in the chat. Ramona is asking, is it worthwhile to explain in a cover letter that you are looking to make a transition from one field to another and just say flat out, here's my skills and experience, and here's how my skills and experience have set me up for this job? Or should it be more of like a storytelling kind of weaving in kind of thing? Or, you know, is blunt the way to go? Or do you want to try and make it,
I think it depends on the company. I think that if it's a very, like if it's a startup or a very creative company, let's say like I'm gonna say like what's the mattress company, like Casper or something like that, right? Have fun with it, like do some storytelling a little bit, but be short and sweet to the best of your ability. Don't rush to send it out. I think if you're sending it to a more corporate place like Prudential or something like that, you can be more specific and more corporate, right? Like you'll have a more like, think about like one of the things I'll say through the questions is know your audience. That's it. Just know your audience. And if you are if you're a creative writer by trade, and you don't have to be a copywriter or any of that. I don't mean that, but like I love to write, right? But I'm not a copywriter. And when I write things, I can have a little bit of like, there becomes like a fun storytelling to it, right? If you have a friend that's really good at writing, have a little role play session with them. They'll get all that juice out of you. Let them do a rough draft on it and work with somebody to do it. I think that they might get stuff out of you that you never thought. And again, just know your audience. If it's a place that's corporate, consider that. And if it's a place that's not, consider that. Because the people that are very creative and the companies that are creative, they're going to want the people that have that in them to come on board.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, and this is another situation where you look at the job description. If the job description itself is like pretty quippy and kind of, you know, snarky and fun and whatever, then yeah, address it that way. But if it's like a bullet pointed list and very cut and dry, then yeah, get to the point. All right, so we've got another question that came in anonymously. This person says, if you know that your current career isn't right, but don't know what is right for you, how do you go about figuring that out? And I feel like that kind of feeds in really nicely to the next question in our deck. This person said that they know they need a career change, but they feel lost about what they truly want to do. They have some ideas, but they're fragmented and seem kind of wild. So how do you work through that? Or do you just experiment with everything?
I'm going to let
multiple questions at play here. So address what you'd like.
As Kat is a life coach as well as a career coach, I think it's important for her to just field this one completely.
Sure. So first of all, like, yeah, I've been there. I know how hard, like that feeling and how hard it is. You're like, oh, I know this isn't working. So like, where do I go next? And it feels like such a big and overwhelming question. And there's lots of ideas floating around. And yeah, so I know, I totally empathize with this. You know, there's a bunch of different, you know, tools and ways that you can look into this, you know, through self-reflection. I find a very helpful question to ask in this scenario, if you're like, I don't know what I want, what do you absolutely not want? Because then that starts to give you some information as to like, okay, well, I know I don't want this. And then you can kind of start crossing things off the list. And through that, it gives you a little bit of direction and clarity as to like, oh, okay, maybe this is working. All right, I don't like this, but actually I do like this. So I might start with that question because I feel like it feels a little bit less overwhelming. And then I put in here, so if you go to the next slide, Meg, just like some resources and things you can use. A tool I absolutely love is a mind map. I think especially for this scenario when you just like, oh my gosh, I have all of these ideas and things in my head, I don't know where to go. Just take some time, play some music, make yourself a cup of tea, like make it fun, just make it feel like a creative, environment and not feel like stressful. And just start writing out like, okay, career, okay, I like art. What, and then words about art, whatever comes up for you, or pictures. I like writing. Okay, writing. What is going on in my brain in terms of writing? Find that can be a really helpful tool when it just feels like there's a lot going on in your brain to just put it on paper. And then some other things in here are like, looking into some strengths tests, our personality tests, just getting to know yourself a little more deeply. Also getting to know like that limiting voice inside your head, your saboteur, your inner critic, like maybe that is something that is holding you back from getting the answers, because often that voice comes up when we're stepping into a place that's new and uncomfortable. Of course, it's like, oh, I can't do that, can't do this. There's also, if you go to the next slide, Meg, I put in here, let's see. So something also important to think about is like, I find in transitioning, we really want to work for companies that really make us feel fulfilled, or jobs that make us feel fulfilled are jobs that align with our values. So, and values aren't like morals. It's not that kind of thing. It's more just like, what is the essence of you? Like some of my values are totally matched with K and Black, honestly, like empathy, integrity, authenticity. And I think that makes for a really successful work relationship. And it also helps you kind of realize the softer skills and soft descriptors of jobs you might be interested in, to kind of like take you out of that analytical brain a little bit and really connect you with like, oh, this is an employer that or someone I love working for. And even if the job description stuff doesn't totally match up here and there, like you're passionate about it, so it makes sense. And then another exercise that is helpful within this scenario is on the next slide is, I learned this from someone, it's the Pesci Test. So she uses passionate, excellent, competent, incompetent. I say or just does not resonate. And this is a way of just charting out, like, as you go through your day, it can be like, I'm taking a shower, literally, or like stuff at your job, like, okay, I'm writing emails. And then you just break down each of the things you do in a day, work day, or in your life, and just sort them by, oh my God, I'm passionate about reading books. Like I love to read. I'm excellent at communicating with people. And then, without bringing yourself down, you can just be honest with yourself about, okay, this is something I do in my job. Like for me, I write a lot of emails. I don't love writing emails, but I'm pretty competent at it. And then like, what doesn't resonate with me? Okay, like lots of project management tools. Like it's something I can do, but I'm not the best at it and I don't love it. So I might put that in the incompetent or does not resonate category. So these are just a lot of different kinds of tools you might be able to use in this scenario. And not for nothing, I'll be honest, coaching, also an amazing tool. I got to shamelessly plug, but I would not be here today if it was not for my coach who gave me the confidence and, pulled that out of me, that exploration and that time, so I could figure out what I wanted to do next. So long-winded answer, but also big question.
Yeah. I mean, Kat, everything you said, I have to say, so Kat, it's very funny because Kat is my life coach and she's also almost 20 years my junior. She is my colleague / employee. She is my friend. She is somebody that I don't feel that the other part of my life would ever happen without her. And so it's extremely interesting to make sure that you have these things. But when you work with somebody, whether it be a friend or a coach or someone that pulls things out of you, things get stirred up. Conversation is also the thing that will help you stir up some stuff. So I think that's really important. With Kat, I'll just end on this. I realized I thought that I needed to travel the world and that life was too short. And, that's what happened with me with cancer. Like, well, I'm not going to see London and I've never been to Paris. What am I going to do? What am I going to do? And I don't take my kids on enough nature walks. They don't go anywhere. And then through working with her, I realized that for me, I wanted life to be about my relationships and finding peace within my relationship at work, peace within my relationships with my family. And so you just have to really investigate and do the work. It's really about just doing the work. It's not going to come overnight.
Absolutely. I think it's doing the work is like, God, it's like a recurring theme on so much of the stuff we talk about on like any of our chats. But yeah, it's about knowing yourself and figuring out what you want. And that can be a process. And honestly, it can be a process that changes over the course of your life. Figuring it out today, it does not mean that you don't have to do it again, 2 years from now, 6 weeks from now, who knows what's going to happen. I mean, we're all living in literally uncharted territory. So, all right. Yeah. So let's go to our next question here. Let's see. Okay, so this person had asked, how does someone get noticed in this job climate? What are some things you've seen candidates do to get the interview or get the position?
So, Hill, do you want to go first with this one or?
No, go ahead. You could start.
Okay. Well, Hill and I have a couple different examples here. But for me, I think the biggest thing in terms of how do you get noticed and how do you actually get your foot in the door to get the interview, relationships. Totally. I think it's all about, really building meaningful relationships with people who can then help you to flag your application when you apply for a job. People who are on your team and like looking out for you then because you've had a conversation with them and they know you and they know the value that you add. So that way it feels like, you're not just in it alone. You actually have a bunch of people who know you and can vouch for you and are, maybe looking out for that opportunity that isn't posted online, but they just heard about through a friend or their company just announced it internally. So for me, the biggest thing is, relationships. And then, secondary through that, of course, like all of the materials that, you need to best represent yourself. Just making sure if you're a creative or you're someone who has a website, making sure your website and your work really speaks to who you are and what you do. And also making sure that your LinkedIn, your resume, your social media, really are, true to you and connect with and resonate with those places where you want to work and those clients you want to have. So, and I know Hill has some fun, those are like the basics, the foundation. And then I think Hill has some fun ways to like really take it to the next level.
Okay. So I'll just share. First, I want to just say one thing before I share the things that people have done. Yeah. But I think also one of the ways that I got more noticed, and not as much as I've seen some people, but is becoming a thought leader within your community, is sharing stuff that really matters to you. So online, if you know that people who post a lot and they are properly put like something that matters to you within the industry you want to be in, let's say, writing a little something about it, tagging the people that wrote the article, let's say, maybe you want to write your own article, have somebody edit it, let somebody take a look at it. Maybe you want to share it with a editorial, somebody who, I mean, I reached out to people at some of the magazines in the industry and made relationships with one of the best ones there. And all I did was send them an email and say, I am so enamored with your work. And I so align with how you share stories that are so important. So I think once you can do the likes all you want on LinkedIn and on the other places, but I think it's also important to maybe have a voice too, whether it's starting with just comments and building a community around that. And then eventually maybe posting your own things that matter. And then people will be able to notice that too. Maybe you want to volunteer right now, even if it's like, I'm a volunteer for a multicultural program for the 4As, which is the advertising organizations, and just doing things and giving that. But here are some creative examples. One guy, he basically took all of he knows that the most successful people in his field, which were chief creative officers, very often would look up their own names and check out their news if something had happened. I'm not going to lie. I've tried to see if I pop up, right? Hillary Clinton comes up all the time. So I went on, he went online, and what he did is he paid for some Google words. And basically, if you looked up some of these specific chief creative officers that he wanted to work for, he would make it so that his website popped up first, so that you would search his name, you'd search the name of the people he wanted to work for, and instead of their when they looked up their name, his information came up, his website. That was one thing which I thought was brilliant. He got a job to be at some point, I think he became the head of creative or the second in command at the Dollar Shave Club. Another person, this woman, Tuesday Poliak, and this is a long time ago, so it's just a creative example, but not what we could do today. She took her portfolio and she put it, and I had shared, we could do this with other things, but she took her portfolio piece by piece, she made it into a wallet size, and she found somebody to drop her portfolio in a wallet that had a fake ID for the chief creative officer and founder of one of the best companies in her industry, and had somebody drop it in the men's room. She did it at all the companies that she wanted to work for. So when somebody found the wallet, they brought it to the founder got it. It wasn't his wallet, it was her work. And last but not least, somebody I know just basically shares things that people can keep on their desk. Like, one person was obsessed with mustard, and it was something they really, really loved, and they wanted to share that with someone else. And they sent out their love for mustard to the hiring manager. I think it's about researching also and finding things that people like. If you see them online and they're constantly sharing a story on LinkedIn about things they're passionate about, maybe it's also as simple as writing them an email and just saying, you know what, I'm a real fan, and I don't know, I really wish and hope you're doing well. First and foremost, it's so important that we just check in on people and humans right now. And I don't know, when work will come about, but in the meantime, thanks for posting what you did. It really just was, it was valuable to me too. So that's important. Anyway, but the mustard guy and the search engine, and Tuesday with the wallets, to me, are my favorite stories.
Those are wild, and I'm loving them. That's just crazy. It's nice to kind of think about, because not everybody, like we talked about earlier, not everybody has the time or the disposable income to be able to do something like that. But thinking about it in that kind of outside the box way, it enables you to really explore more what your options are when reaching out to some of these people.
We were saying you could do a
GIF.
You could just do a GIF. Like Kat was saying, even if you just send somebody, I had a candidate who actually just sent me an email, and he just said, this is strictly just to see how you are. I hope you're doing well. And some other candidates feel that that's bullshit and it feels bad. But what my dad said to me 26 years ago was, and this is different now because we can't mail it, but no, people are starting to send things. Some people are going in one day a week, let's say. There's still people showing up, right? But you could do it via email and have a creative way. Maybe if all the writing is in pink, or you change the format of your email address into all caps, right? To stand out. But 26 years ago, my dad said to me, listen, go get a purple piece of paper, get your resume on purple, go write your resume, get a purple envelope, and hand deliver it and put it in they're going to get 17 resumes, and none of them are going to be in a purple envelope. So I'm not saying that's what we can do now. I know that I'm dating myself. What I'm trying to say is think creatively, or ask someone and kind of brainstorm with them how to be creative about getting noticed. And even if it is, that you send a content piece of you doing something, you know, or you sending in somebody to this company called Mother, which is one of the top advertising agencies in the country. He had his mom send a video applying for him for work, for work. But just get creative. That's all I'd say. You have to be.
Okay. All right. So then let's go into our next questions. I know we only have about 11 minutes left, and I do apologize, guys. I know if you've joined chats that I've run before, we've run, you know, a minute, 2 minutes after to try and get questions answered. Unfortunately, we do have to end right at 4 o'clock today. So let me jump to our next question slide. All right, so this person had asked, we all want to reinvent ourselves, but what if my eventual goal is trading in a lot of stability, i.e. a full-time position somewhere, for something more rewarding like freelance? How do you act on that in an ever-changing world? We have a lot of people right now that are unsure what they want to do, especially if they were looking at a career change prior to COVID and all of this, you know, upheaval that we're going through. But how should you evaluate that goal in light of, you know, the current situation?
Kat?
Yeah. Well, first of all, I want to demystify the myth that full-time is more stable than freelance or owning your own business, because obviously, we're seeing, especially right now, that it's kind of everything is in question. And truthfully, there's always risks with any opportunity. Although, of course, yes, having a full-time job, provides you with healthcare. And if you have a family, of course, that's important. And that's not something that, we can just put aside. But I do think there is a part to that that's a little bit of a belief that might not be totally true all the time. I think I would go about this by kind of going back to, what are my values right now and what's really important to me right now? Is it really important to me where I know that I'm going into an office every day? I don't have to worry about, pitching my own clients or, doing that kind of business work that can be a bit more intensive and exhausting for some people. Or is it really important to me right now to have a flexible schedule, to be able to choose the clients specifically that I want to work with, that I'm passionate about? So I think that's something, you really have to just look within, what's going to make the most sense for you and your situation right now. And also that, supports your values. Hill, if you want to.
No, I think that covers it.
Yeah. And I want to note too, we live in I think it's amazing. We have so many entrepreneurs right now and business owners, and it's incredible. But I also don't want people to feel pressured to that, that is achievement. It's also okay to say to yourself, hey, you know what? I want a full-time job, too. So both are equally amazing. It just depends on what you want and, what your values are.
Yeah, I think that's a really good thing to point out too, is that if you make that list of what you really want in what you think might be your dream job, it's okay for things to kind of shift priority in there. It's something that, maybe was a top tier priority, absolute must have 3 months ago, is no longer because, maybe you wanted to change jobs because you were sick of the commute, and now you don't have to worry about that. So keep in mind that, yeah, things change, but in that shift, a lot of things that were either deal breakers before might not be anymore, or things that were problems before might not be an issue for you anymore. It might, the script might have really kind of flipped there. Okay, so for this next question, this person asked, what strategies and tactics would you recommend for those who may feel the onset and or impending burden of ageism? What do you say to those who feel too old to reinvent themselves?
I mean, listen, this one's dear to my heart. I have a lot of candidates and people that are stressing out about how old they are and my industry, some industries, especially the creative industry that we're in, it kind of, people feel like they cap out at 40. It's crazy. I think it's about, so the strategies and tactics is about, you have to ask yourself, okay, where am I in my job? What industry am I in? Am I doing everything I can? Right. Again, it goes back to putting the work in. Am I involved in my community, in my industry? Am I networking? Am I open to change? Do I need to say, oh, I still will only work at this company? I'm not going to go work for that company, or I'm not going to consider this or that. Like, am I being open? Right. And first of all, I should say the other thing is, you know, it's okay if you're freelance right now, right? And you're not working and that's what's scaring you, or you're not working and that's the problem. I know people who have just they've taken what, like, for example, like I said earlier, there's a copywriter I know, and they love working with people. They love presenting. They love pitching. They love doing that. So they were like, "Oh, I could go into real estate. I love showing things. I like talking about things and sharing, like pitching it, right?" So they took those skills on the side and still continued to make sure that they beefed up their current skill set to compete with those that might not, well, either their age or younger. And I really think I wish I knew who asked this, because I really think it's important to say, what have I done and how am I going to stand out? Because a lot of time it's very important to make sure that we go through that. And I know we're wrapping up for time, so I want to make sure, Kat, if you want, do you have a few seconds to add to that? Anything before we go to the next question?
No, I think yeah, you said it all. And it's also just about, aligning with people too who know you and can vouch for your work and your expertise, and really like leaning on those relationships, whether it's with recruiters, whether it's with hiring managers, or people who might be kind of unexpected and outside your industry. Because if they know you and know your work, I think there are different avenues that you can look into too, if it's just, if this industry isn't working out or these opportunities aren't working out. So
Great.
Thank you for that, ladies. I think it's also important to note that, like, if you don't make it an issue from the jump, then it's really up to the other person to make it an issue in, whatever situation it is, whether it's an interview or a promotion meeting or something like that. But by not making it an issue yourself, you're giving that other person permission to also follow your lead, but you're also then putting the onus on them. So if they raise it as a problem, then you are well within your rights to say, well, I have years of experience that most people don't have, and you can't get that overnight. And here's the various reasons why my years of experience are very valuable in this instance, or whatever else you might be able to bring to the table. Maybe it's your experience in multiple settings or multiple industries. It's definitely, experience is something that's very important and cannot be rushed. So keep that in mind. All right, so we have time for one more question here. We're going to jump to one of our last ones. This person had said, by choice, I spent a lot of my advertising career freelancing instead of working full-time someplace. That choice now seems frowned upon by companies, but how can I turn it into a strength?
Kat, do you want to go first?
sure, I'll go first. So first of all, like, I know, yes, that this is a thing that, if you haven't been full-time in a while, there are, hiring managers who are going to ask questions. But at the same time, I see so much value in being a freelancer. And I think it's really about leaning on those things that are going to be valuable when you're within a company. So, for example, really leaning on, okay, especially I think the one main concern with this is, well, have you managed teams? Have you been somewhere a long time? Like, can you kind of build a team and those relationships? So then answer the question, before that hiring manager is even going to ask it. You can tell them up front, make sure they know, hey, you know what? I have had these longer term freelance projects where I've built these amazing relationships with people. And you know what? On this team, I managed, X amount of people. And I have done that before. And then there are like the parts of freelancing where you can be such a huge asset to a, in-house company team, where as a freelancer, you've got to be like on your relationships all the time. You've got a huge network. You work with a bunch of different clients and agencies. So cool, maybe you can be helpful as well with helping build business, get new clients, bring new vendors in. You've got a fresh perspective and you can really utilize that network to help the company. So I would position it, putting yourself in the company's shoes and showcasing to them what you can offer before they even like ask those questions, that are like, and make an assumption that's frowned upon.
I think Kat pretty much took all.
Sorry.
No, that's fine. You took everything we discussed yesterday because we really wanted to prepare. I think the main thing to take away from also is think before they ask. If you're thinking about an interview, be prepared. And again, did you go on shoots? Did you produce it? How long was the freelance? Let them see the freelance isn't an issue and that you really became a part, like Kat said, as a part of the community, and be ready for what they're going to ask before they can. As it relates to LinkedIn, though, I think it's important to say this. Some people will just list like every single company they worked at. And I like it to some degree because I get to see the photos of all the different companies, especially if they're like cool logos and stuff. The problem is if you're doing 1 month or 2 month, I don't want to see 100 drop downs on your LinkedIn. What I would say is you could put, if you worked at one 4 or 5 times, maybe just put the different dates there underneath. And you could do it that way. But just, I think that yes, if you share the strengths that you were a part of their community, that you produced a lot of work, that you created a real strong vendor relationship, and then references maybe on your resume or on your website that you could have kind of as like scrolling things that go through of companies that have said good things about you. And that's really important.
Absolutely. All right, so I apologize, guys. We are going to have to cut it short here, but I just want to say a huge thank you to our lovely community members. Thank you for submitting questions both earlier and today in the chat. And then huge thank you to both Hillary and Kat for taking time out of your day to spend with our community. It was invaluable. So thank you so much.
Thanks so much for having us. Really
Thank you for having us, and thanks for being here.
Yeah, thanks everyone. Really happy to be able to do it.
Bye, guys. Have a lovely Thursday.